everyone, and welcome back. Today, I thought that we could talk about Egyptian gods and goddesses, since we are reading a book about their stories and their mythology. Might be nice to know who some of them are. So today, we're going to talk about some of the more well-known gods and goddesses. There's a lot, but we're not going to do all of them today. So some of these we may have already heard about because of our mythology reading. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something called the Ennead, and that is spelled and that means a group of 9. And this is a group of gods and goddesses who are kind of involved in the creation myth. It includes Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. Here's the picture. So from left to right, Atum, Tefnut, Shu, who's holding Nut, and then Geb is down here. He's like the land. And then this is Osiris, Isis, Seth or Set, and Nephthys is right there. So that's the order of those gods. The first individual god we're going to talk about is a god called Ammit. The name Ammit means the devourer. Ammit was often depicted with the head of a crocodile, the forelegs of a lion, and the hind legs of a hippopotamus. This is considered a she. She lived next to the scales of justice in the underworld. And if you've ever seen a picture of the Hall of Judgment, which we'll get into eventually for sure, you can see Ammit sitting there waiting to devour your soul next to the scale. So she's usually shown in funeral art. It serves a warning to the deceased to live a good life and avoid wrongdoing because you don't want to get eaten by some weird creature. This is what Ammit's name looks like in hieroglyphs. And this is a picture of what Ammit looks like. Now, there's a lot of different spellings depending on how it's translated, and just there's like several ways to say the names. If you notice, this is a U. I got this information from the British Museum, so I'm just going to stick with that. But there's definitely different spellings for a lot of these. So the next god we're going to talk about is Amun and Amun-Ra. And Amun-Ra. Amun was originally part of something called the Ogdoad, I think is probably how you'd say it. A group of 8 gods from another creation myth. He was also known as the Hidden One. So that's him. hidden one. Why did I put an E there? And was thought to be a mysterious god with many secrets. He was often portrayed as a man with red or blue skin, wearing a headdress of 2 feathers, or as a ram-headed man. By the Middle Kingdom, Amun became linked with the king and was considered a protector of the royal family and king of the gods. And then in the New Kingdom, Amun was combined with the sun god Ra to form the powerful god Amun-Ra, because the gods changed throughout the different dynasties and kingdoms. The temple at Karnak was one of the largest and most impressive for him. So it's a new kingdom. So this is what Amun-Ra looks like. I'm pretty sure Amun had like a blue. He just was more blue. And this is what his name, this is Amun's name. This is Amun-Ra's name in hieroglyphics. So the next god we're going to talk about, and it's one of my favorites, is Anubis. Anubis was the god of mummification. And he lived in the afterlife, and he had his whole deal has to do with death. So he was often portrayed as a man with the head of a jackal, and sometimes a full jackal. So this is a depiction of him in the Hall of Judgment during the weighing of the heart, because Anubis was the one who put the heart on the scale and the feather on the scale and actually used the scale. And there's Amit, crocodile, cool lady. This is what Anubis's name looks like. It's called jackal. So Anubis was responsible for preparing the deceased for the afterlife and guiding them kind of into the Hall of Judgment. He was associated with rituals of mourning and sometimes depicted as a protector of the dead. I know that a lot of times people who are doing mummifications would wear Anubis masks, and he was considered the god who mummified Osiris after he was deceased. Anubis was also seen as a gentle and caring god who took great care in ensuring that the dead were treated with respect. Isn't he great? So next we have Aten. That's what Aten's name looks like. Aten was a solar god who was often portrayed as a sun disk with rays ending in hands. I'm sure you've seen some pictures that it kind of looks like. Sometimes it has like little hands coming down like that. That's kind of what it looks like. Aten is considered the giver of life, light, energy, and food, and is often shown as a bright and powerful force, which would make a lot of sense. During the reign of the pharaoh Akhenaten, The Aten became the main god of Egypt, and Akhenaten banned the worship of other gods. After Akhenaten died, the worship of Aten kind of like faded away too. So the next god is Aten. There's an Egyptian myth that says that he's the one who created the world. A lot of them vary depending on what time period you're talking about. He's often depicted as a man wearing a double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. Sometimes associated with the evening sun, ancient Egyptians believed that he traveled across the sky during the day and passed through the underworld at night before being reborn when dawn came. He was sometimes depicted as an old man and also represented the end of life, and then was thought to be like reborn every day. He was part of the Ennead, which we talked about, the first 9 gods and goddesses, and was believed to have created Shu, who's the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, were also part of the Ennead. So, the creator. That's what his name looks like in hieroglyphs. Next, we're going to talk about Bastet. This is one of the more well-known ones. Goddess of cats, fertility, childbirth, and is often associated with dance and joy and things like that. Cats, right? Cats are hilarious. So usually is depicted with the head of a cat and the body of a human. A lot of Egyptians who owned cats worshipped Bastet. They were considered very sacred cats, like guardians of the underworld. I'm sure you've seen that with like the mummy. So they had the power in ancient Egypt. It was believed they had the power to protect against evil spirits and diseases. Her image was often used as a symbol of protection or luck. And it's also like related to the lion goddess Sekhmet, but is considered to be like a more gentle version of that. This is Bastet's name. There. So the next god we're going to talk about is Bes. Bes was often shown as a short bearded man with a lion's mane and tail, wearing a feather headdress. Ancient Egyptians considered those with dwarfism, including Bes, to be magical, and they were often appointed as a high status. So he's thought to be a friendly, helpful god, protected children, cared for women during childbirth, and helped people feel safe and happy. So nice. So we'll say helpful god. He was a fierce protector, carried knives, warding off demons and killing snakes. snakes aren't evil, they're okay. Actually, really like snakes. So, protector. Also, like Bastet. He was associated with dance, music, entertainment, often showed playing an instrument or dancing. I think he seems very nice. So next we're going to talk about the 4 sons of Horus. Supposed to be you. Oh yeah, this is what Bess's glyph looked like. Forgot to do that one. And then these are the 4 sons of Horus. So let me write those down. First one, Imsti, who was thought to be, so these are all kind of associated with organs, like body parts, which is why they were all the depictions on the canopic jars that held the organs of the people. So these are the 4 sons of Horus are actually what are depicted on canopic jars when Egyptian people are mummified. She's associated with the liver. Oh my god. Liver. Then there's Dwamutef, who is associated with the stomach. There's Hapi, who protects the lungs. And the last and craziest and most difficult one to say, Kebesinef. Who is associated with the intestines. Okay, so they're also depicted, like in the canopic jars, as mummified people with animal heads. Insiti has a human head. Human. Duimitef has a jackal head, like Anubis. Hapi has the head of a baboon. If you can see that. And Kebesenef has the head of a falcon. So, this is Insiti. This is Duimitef. This is Hapi. And this is Kebesenef. So, they believed to have the power to help the deceased navigate the afterlife and to protect them from harm. They were often worshipped during the mummification process. So they were very, very important because getting through the afterlife and getting guided through that was one of the most important tasks ahead after you died. So next we're going to talk about Geb. Geb was the god of earth and fertility, so new life. He was often depicted as a man lying on his back with his arms and legs stretched out to represent the land. We saw a picture of him. This guy right there, that's Geb. Here's another when he's not laying. So Geb was married to Nut, the sky goddess. She has the stars on her. You saw her like leaning, kind of arching over him. The father of Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys. The ancient Egyptians believed, because he was about the earth, that he would bring good harvest. And he was also associated with the idea of stability and balance. Especially that has to do with the earth. So, balance. So the earth didn't collapse into chaos. He kind of like kept it together. And he's also part of the Ennead, the 9, which I showed you. Here's what his name looks like. So the next is Happy. So thought to control Nile flooding, which was important because when the Nile would flood, it would water all the crops. And so that obviously had to do with a good harvest as well. Often portrayed as a man with a large belly, representing fertility, or also new life. So a lot of the gods represent this like similar things. And he also represents good food. So this is different from Happy. Who was one of the 4 sons of Horus. So that is not the same god. That's different. So this is Happy. It's very blue. This is his name. Next is Hathor, one of the other most important. Hathor shows up a lot and has a lot of stuff going on. This Hathor. Hathor is the goddess of love and joy and music and beauty. Which is probably why she's so popular, right? Often depicted with the head of a cow and the body of a woman. And she's a sun disk, like horns like a sun disk a lot of the time. I'm sure you've seen her depicted as that. Thought to have the power to protect against illness and danger in her role as the tame version of the goddess Sekhmet. So another tamer version of another god. So Egyptian queens were often portrayed wearing Hathor's headdress, and along with Isis, she was considered by the Greeks to be a version of Aphrodite, who is also a goddess of love and beauty. So this is Heather. Here she is with her sun disk and her horns. There's a cute little cow. And her name is like a falcon, a little box. So next we're going to talk about Horus. Another very, very important god. Horus is the god of the sky, war, and hunting. He's also the god of kingship, associated with the pharaohs and often depicted as their protector or defender. So we'll say protector of pharaohs. How do you spell pharaohs? O-A-O-H. That's a tough one. Portrayed as a man with the head of a falcon, or sometimes just a falcon, the son of Osiris and Isis. And he defeated his uncle Seth to reclaim the throne when Seth stole it from Osiris. So he's a just and fair god who protects the people of Egypt in order to maintain order and balance. So order and balance. He's very important. He has a lot of roles. He's in a lot of mythology. Also, he's the son of Osiris, so that's huge. His name, little falcon guy, makes a lot of sense. He is with a headdress. That's one of the crowns of Egypt. It might be both, actually. I'm not sure. That's the thing I was talking about. That's the little thing on the top. So next, we're going to talk about Isis, who is the mother of Horus. It's the mother of Horus. Goddess of protection, motherhood, and magic. Usually depicted as a woman with the hieroglyph for throne worn as a crown. The Egyptians believed that she could perform magic and heal the sick. So she's also part of the Ennead. And there's mythology about the Nile flooding because of the tears of Isis, who was crying for her husband who had been killed, Osiris. So she brings life, fertility, magic. She's pretty cool. That's what she looks. She's wearing the throne as a crown, and that's the hieroglyph for throne right on top of her head there. That's what she looks like right there. She also has like wings, which is why this bird might be here. There's the throne there. So next we have Khepri. Who is god of the rising sun. Oh my god, he's the scarab. I think he has a scarab as a head, is that right? Yep. Often shown as a man with the head of a scarab beetle. Here he things. And so scarabs, a lot of them are what's called dung beetles, which means they roll big piles of poo into a ball. And a lot of Egyptian mythology, because, like we've talked about before, mythology is all about observing your environment and making conclusions based on the knowledge that you have. So the Egyptians believed that the sun was rolled across the sky by a giant beetle, and kind of like the sun was like a ball of dung, but it wasn't. It was a god. So he would roll the god across the sky. And he's linked with transformation, rebirth. Dung beetles also, like beetles, like hatch inside of the ball of poo. Who moves the sun, and he is considered to rebirth. We're gonna say rebirth. So although he is always touching poo, he's very important because rebirth is important. So, thanks, Capri. This is his name, and it's got a little beetle on it. That's so cute. Hieroglyphs are so interesting. He's also a symbol of hope and resurrection and the funerary process, so he was often mentioned during funerals and stuff like that. So next is Khnum. So Khnum was the god who was depicted with a man's body and a sheep or ram head. There he is right there. Probably seen him before. He's the creator god who formed humans by using a potter's clay wheel. He's the guardian of the Nile River and of the source of the Nile River, which Egyptians believed was very far away into the south, which I didn't know that. People who worshipped him would often give offerings and ask for good health or a successful harvest. Health. Harvest. So that's Khnum right there. It's got a little bird and a little pot. Successful harvest, right? Next we have Khonsu. Alright. Yeah. Who is the god of the moon and the son of Amun and Mut. He's often depicted as a young man wrapped in tightly fitted garments, or as a man with the head of a falcon. Both of them have a crown shape a crown in the shape of the moon on their heads. just like that. Very tightly wrapped young man. The crown has a moon on it. His name means traveler or pathfinder. Pathfinder. And they think maybe this is because of how the moon travels across the sky. So he was the protector of those who traveled at night. He was often linked to healing and believed to have the power to cure illness and injuries. So could cure people. Often thought to have the power to control time and called on during ceremonies that marked the beginning or end of a period of time, such as the New Year or the end of a king's reign. So he's also associated with time. That's his name right there. Next, we have Mott, another very important one. She's a little apostrophe in her name. The goddess of truth, justice, and balance. And balance. This has something to do with you use her feather when you're weighing your heart on the scale. And so that's what truth, justice, balance, scale, justice, all that. She's often shown as a woman with an ostrich feather on her head with the wings that she holds out with her hands. So that ostrich feather is the one that's weighed against your heart, believed to represent the force that kept the universe in balance. She was called on during important events such as the crowning of a pharaoh or the signing of a peace treaty. So like peace. Thought to have the power to protect against chaos and evil. She was often used as a symbol of ethical behavior, which is why they used her feather, because she was just pretty great. So this is Mott. She is with her ostrich feather and her wings. There's her name right there. She's got her with a little, it's like her with a little feather. Cute. So next we have Montu. Montu is the god of war and was often worshipped by soldiers because they thought that he would help them win. Depicted as a man with the head of a falcon or a bull. His name means nomad or traveler. So he also kind of has the traveler aspect. He's associated with vitality, strength. And this is his name. Right there. So next we have Neith. Neith is the goddess of hunting, weaving, and war. So she's also associated with war, hunting, and weaving. Shown as a woman wearing a red crown of Lower Egypt or a headdress made of 2 bows and a shield. She's married to Set, the god of chaos. She was a protective goddess who watched over the mummified bodies. She's a lesser known goddess, but was a very important figure in Egyptian mythology and was very, very widely respected and worshipped. And she was also part of the Ennead. This is her. There's her little crown thing. Next is Nephthys. She was the goddess of mourning, funerals, and death. Mourning and funerals. Depicted as a woman wearing a headdress that form the 2 hieroglyphs that spell her name, which is a bull and a house. She's married to Set, the god of chaos, along with Isis, her sister. She's a protective goddess, and she was very important and worshipped and well known and part of the Ennead. This is her name. And under that is the next goddess we're going to do, which is Nun. Nun existed before the world and before the gods came into being. Before. Ancient Egyptians believed that before anything else existed, there was only Nun, a vast and infinite ocean of water. Infinite. Often depicted as a bearded man with blue or green skin. So he represents the waters of the ocean, and all life was considered to have come from him. He could keep people safe on their journeys across the ocean, and the sun was believed to rise out of Nun every morning and sink back into Nun each night, the beetle rolling across the sky. So next we have Nut. We've talked about her. She is the sky. She's blue and she has stars. She's married to the god of the earth, Geb, who lies down underneath her. And she's the mother of the 4 children, Osiris, Isis, Seth, and Nephthys. Every night, she swallows the sun and gives birth to it every morning. Egyptians believe that she protected and watched over the souls of the dead. They would travel through her body on the way to the afterlife. So they would travel through just like the sun did every night and be like reborn. She was also part of the Ennead, the 9. And her little symbol is this, very simple, cute. Next we have perhaps one of the most important gods, Osiris, and that's what his name looks like, an eye and a throne. So Osiris that is bad. is the god of the afterlife. He's married to Isis, the father of Horus, who's murdered by his brother Seth, brought back to life by his wife, usually depicted as a mummified man with green or black skin holding a crook and a flail, which is like the little hook thing and the little thing with the stuff on it. Here. This is what he looks like. They believed that he judged the souls of the dead and decided whether they were worthy of passing into the afterlife. He was linked to the annual flooding of the Nile because his wife Isis was crying, flooding the Nile because of his death. And he's also part of the Ennead. So, if you're looking at the Hall of Judgment depiction, he's often sitting off to the side, watching. Next, the underworld. Next is Ta. This is what he looks like. He's the god of architects and artists. He's depicted as a mummified man wearing a skull cap and holding a scepter, as we saw. He's often associated with the creation and was believed to have created the world by speaking it into existence. We learned that in our first creation myth. Connected to healing and believed to have the power to cure. So cure or heal. And in Memphis, one of Egypt's earliest capitals, he was the main god of that city. Here's Ta's name. And next we're going to do Ra. Looks like sun, kind of. So Ra is the god of the sun, associated with light, warmth, and growth, frequently depicted as the head of a falcon with the body of a human. He was considered the first king ruling initially and then ruling as a god. Believed to have the power to control the sky and the weather, life and death. His main temple is in Heliopolis, city of the sun. That's in Greek though. So this is Ra. Makes sense. He's a sun. There's another god called Ra Horikti. So we're just gonna, because it's HGY. And this is the god of the rising sun, often associated with light, warmth, and growth, like Ra. It's a combination of two gods, Ra and Horus. So that's actually happened before, as we saw with Amun-Ra. So he's got the head of a falcon or a hawk and the body of a human, and he's wearing a sun disk, often exactly like the god Ra. In the Book of the Dead, there's a spell which is a long hymn, and it's to Ra Horikti. It's about the deceased wanting to be born like the rising sun. Oh my god, love that. So here's his name. If If you notice, it has the same symbol. It also has like a falcon. Interesting. It's an interesting one. All right, we are coming to our last few gods and goddesses here. So next is Sekhmet. Oh my god. She is the goddess of destruction, power, and strength. Oh, that's weird. And war. There's a lot of war stuff going on. Her image was often used as a symbol of courage and resilience. Also the goddess of pestilence and plague. Ooh. So, because of that, she was thought to have the power to protect against disease and evil. She was a great warrior of the god Ra and was often dispatched to fight against enemies of the sun. When she was tame and calm, she changed into Bastet or Hathor. Lion. And this is her name. And after her, we have Serket. Here, this little guy. Let's see what that's all about, shall we? So, Serket. He is the goddess of scorpions. Cool. And venom and healing. Frequently depicted as a woman with a scorpion on her head, associated with protection against scorpion stings and other poisonous bites. Priests of Serket were considered great magicians and doctors because of her connection with healing. Scorpion amulets were common as a worship. It's like a lucky charm in exchange for her healing abilities. Closely associated with coffins and canopic jars. It was often used in her image was often used to decorate tombs and funeral objects. So next we have Seshat. Seshat was the goddess of all types of notation, so writing, record keeping, math, which Egyptians had math. I mean, they made the pyramids, right? It was not aliens, it was the Egyptians. She's depicted as a woman wearing a headdress shaped like the seven-pointed star, sometimes described as Thoth's sister, wife, or daughter. So she has a part to play in rituals of laying down the foundations of new buildings. So that's her like star she wears on her headdress. That's her name. And there, that's what she looks like with her little star up there. Next, we have Seth, or Set, sometimes he is called. Seth is the god of chaos. wrong. I mixed him up. He's associated with the desert, storms, violence, and foreign people. Often showed with the head of an animal that resembles a mix of different kinds of creatures, including a jackal, donkey, and an aardvark. He's portrayed as the villain who killed his brother Osiris out of jealousy, and then he was defeated by Horus later. He was also seen as the protector who defended Ra from dangerous creatures. He was feared by many Egyptians, but was also worshipped by others, including Seti I and II, who were named after him. He was sometimes called upon to help crops grow and have good harvest, and he was also part of the Ennead, the Nine. Something to do with like crops and killing dangerous creatures. There he is. Combination. Something there. So next we have Shu. This is Shu. She is holding up Nut, part of the Ennead. Considered the god of air and atmosphere. So, the husband of Tefnut, who's the goddess of moisture, often depicted as a man with a feather on his head, holding his children apart. The goddess Nut and Geb. In some stories, he created first humans by breathing life into clay or mud, making him a god of life and creation as well. Creation and life. This is what Shu's name looks like. And next we have Sobek. And he's got a little crocodile right there, because Sobek has the head of a crocodile. This is my husband's favorite, other than Anubis. So Sobek pretty cool. The god of the Nile River, often associated with fertility, protection, and strength, depicted as the body of a human, the head of a crocodile. Believed to have the power to protect people from danger, such as crocodile attacks or evil spirits. Worshipped in temples located near the Nile. Some legends say that he could control the flow of the Nile River and make it flood or recede as needed, which, as we know, is pretty common for gods. They really needed that. So, Nile River. This is Sobek. Oh, cutie. I actually love reptiles. I love snakes, lizards, crocodiles. I love them all. I think they're adorable. They look like dinosaurs, which are also cute. So next we have Tawaret. We only have 3 left, so I'm going to try to fit them on here. Right? Yeah. Tawaret is the goddess of childbirth and fertility. She's often portrayed as a standing hippopotamus with the belly and breasts of a pregnant woman. She is associated with the protection of children, often depicted on furniture and household objects to ward off danger. Based on the number of amulets and lucky charms that have her image on it, that have survived, they consider it to be one of the most common household things, was having like an amulet with a depiction of her on it, which makes sense because most people have children. She actually became popular outside of Egypt as well, serving as a goddess in the Mediterranean and western parts of Asia. So this is her name. Tawaret. Interesting. All kinds of stuff going on there. And the next one we're going to talk about is Tefnut. Tefnut is the goddess of moisture, including rain and dew. Rain, dew. She's often depicted as a woman with the head of a lion. She was believed to have the power to bring rain and moisture to the earth and help crops grow, which was very important. Associated with the sun, believed to help the sun god Ra as he journeyed across the sky. She was the wife of Shu, who were some of the first gods created by Atum, and of course part of the Ennead. And the last god we're going to talk about today is Thoth. Some people call him Thoth. However you want to say it, right? He's the god of wisdom. He's also a scribe. So he's also the god of writing, which makes sense because he's a scribe, and knowledge. He's depicted with the head of an ibis, the bird, and the body of a human. He was sometimes depicted as a baboon, though. Frequently associated with scholars and scribes, and he was believed to have invented hieroglyphs. I actually didn't know that. He also was believed to have the power to heal illness and injuries, and was considered a great magician. Ooh. Magician. Thoth is cool. I like Thoth. I didn't know some of that stuff about him. So really quick, let's just go over here's the Hall of Judgment. Here's the scale. Here's Anubis, old jackal guy. Here's Ammit, little crocodile guy. And Thoth is usually on one side. An ibis head, little beak, like that. And he's usually writing on the wall. He has like a little pen, a little notebook here. And he's usually like writing the results of the weighing of the heart on the wall. Which, I mean, he's just keeping a record, keeping things cool, you know? So that's usually, and then Osiris usually is over here. It's like headdress. Sitting over here. It's not very good. It's not very good. So this is what his name looks like. It's got a little ibis in it. And that's what he looks like. He is writing on the wall. Wow, that wasn't very good. Like thinner, like that. Oop. And then he's got that thing like that. So that was the overview of gods and goddesses. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.